Hey everybody, it's me Max, and welcome to another episode of Max Bytes, my mini podcast I do to encourage, illuminate, and hopefully bring some moral clarity to the insane world we have around us. I do this for all my followers. I hope everybody's having a wonderful week, and I hope everybody's been blessed. And I want to say hi to everybody, and I'm sorry it's been so long. But I've been getting a lot of requests for another Max Bytes, so here I am. And I'm going to talk about a few different topics today. I got a lot of questions about the Trump court cases, about the Republicans in the U.S. House, and how the future of the House looks. And, of course, whether or not Trump is going to end up going to jail or prison. I think I've pretty much, in one way or another, addressed all these topics on my Twitter account and on Telegram at one time or another. And if you're not following me, make sure you follow me at Maximus _4 EVR. And that's on Twitter and on Telegram. And of course, it's also on Getter, and I'm on Gab and Truth, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, we'll start with the U.S. House, because there was a lot of questions about that. I know the House has done some stuff that nobody really likes, whether it's passing foreign aid, whether it's, the fact that Democrats sided with Speaker Johnson. All of this I anticipated and I predicted at one point or another. I said to members of Maximus Premium just about 3, 4, 5 weeks ago that the Democrats were in touch. Actually, I should say Speaker Johnson was in touch with Democrats to save his job. Now, my feelings on this whole issue is things are just getting progressively worse in the House. I'm not impressed with House Republicans. I have very little respect for any House Republican, frankly. I go very extreme on this. And if you know me personally, or if you're a member of Premium, and a lot of you are, what have you, you just know I don't have I don't have any good feeling about the House prospects in general in November. Having said all of that, it's been getting progressively worse. It's a numbers game, and it's been getting progressively worse since the beginning of October of last year. And they're actually doing a worse job now than they were doing a year ago. I'm not going to get into the pillow fights between the egos, because we have too many egos up there. But what do I think of Speaker Johnson? I don't even think of him. I guess he's a great. He's kind of like. It's weird because he's a guy who never wanted the job, right? He was a backbencher. Whoever heard of him, right? Who heard of Johnson before he became Speaker of the House? Nobody did. I hadn't even heard of him. So this is a guy who but he was unanimously confirmed by every Republican. So all the Republicans that hate him now, and there are actually less of them now than voted for him, in October, but all the Republicans that hate him now, actually they voted for him. So you kind of like shrugging your shoulder. And who was he? He was nobody. Here's my feelings on it, and I'll just tell you, this is how I look at it. The U.S. House of Representatives the Republicans have not had a strong speaker in about 25 years. Okay. So I haven't if you look back on all the speakers of the House, for Republican speakers of the House the last 25 years, they've all sucked in one way or another. And they've actually gotten progressively worse. Believe it or not. I mean, it's kind of hard to say that, kind of, but I mean, 20 years ago, some of the speakers were really bad, but they're just terrible. And it really gets down to you have the standard. You look at somebody like Newt Gingrich from the mid to late 90s, who actually forced a Democratic president to sign welfare reform and balance the budget for several years, and also pass the line item veto. And we almost got through that Congress in the mid 90s. We almost got term limits passed, a constitutional amendment for term limits. and a constitutional amendment for balanced budget. It almost happened. That's how productive that era of Republican speakership, the speakership, and of course the Republicans in the House, the freshman class of 94 and their legacy. Well, they were all Reaganites, and they were like flaming Reaganites. They were definitely patriots. These were people that literally would go home on the weekends. It was mandatory that they reread the Federalist Papers, and it was mandatory that they reread the Constitution, and it was mandatory that they familiarize themselves with Democracy in America by Tocqueville. I mean, these were things that Gingrich had them doing every weekend when he first came in as Speaker. The Last Statesman. And then say what you will about him, and some, because he's pretty much retired now and he's on Fox all the time and he's making a bundle, and, God bless him. But, he was productive and he got stuff done. These guys are all clowns. All clowns. All clowns. All they're thinking about is their gig on television that they're going to get. They want to, the book that they're going to put out, how they look on social media, their social media following, getting kickbacks on that if they have a few million followers or something like that. They don't pass any legislation. They don't do any serious reform. They propose things that's never going to go anywhere. And I'm talking about all of them. And they have no leadership. And that's why it's happening, because they have no leadership, frankly. If they had a strong leader, Newt was actually a former whip. I'm going to say something just bear with me, understand where I'm going with this. Nancy Pelosi, as terrible as she was a very effective progressive speaker as far as getting stuff done that she wanted to get done, because she was a professional whip before she was speaker. That was before she was the leader of the Democrats. She was one of the best whips in the history of the House. She could whip those votes. She could get things. She could get the votes harnessed to get legislation through. And what's her legacy, I think, as speaker? Getting Obamacare through. Okay. Which was horrible. It was tragic. And, I remember when that passed. And it's been like the devil to actually it's like trying to pull teeth to try to get it removed, right? I mean, to repeal it. At least we got the individual mandate repealed under Trump. But, you need someone that has that type of an iron fist, iron hand control of their own party to get things accomplished. There's nobody that, that can actually harness that kind of that type of leadership skills. You just don't see it. And so circling back to Johnson, he was a nobody, and he's a sellout. And, I'm kind of surprised, because he was, frankly, on paper, he looked more conservative than McCarthy. And, look what happens. So, but on the other hand, you have a dwindling majority. You have a dwindling majority of House members, of Republicans. And all of this is just, again, bad leadership, major egos. It's a toxic work environment. And you can't blame anybody who has no stomach for it, for quitting. I mean, I do. I think McCarthy resigning and the other ones resigning early was petty to do that. And I also think it was stupid to throw Santos out. The whole thing is a mess. Okay. And I've talked about this ad nauseum on Maximus Premium, which, by the way, if you're not a member of Maximus Premium, link in description below, contact Roxy and join, because I talk about this all the time on my full podcast for premium members. And we discuss this in the garage. You want to join my garage? Max's garage is a cool place to hang out in with me. It's like 24/7, just class, if you would, talking politics, history, you name it. And that's my premium network. So join premium. You won't be disappointed. I guarantee it's definitely what you need for the election year, because it's great. So email Roxy Balboa, the number 1 at gmail.com, and tell her you'd like to join. We're running a special this month too. So you get to join for $14. So hit her up. Anyway, but getting back, the Johnson and the Republicans are just failures. And so I don't have much hope. There's no, I mean, when this says like their approval rating is whatever, 12%, 14%, it should be zero. It should be negative. It should be, if you could do that, it should be like a negative 25%. That's my opinion on the House. Do I think Republicans are going to hold the House? I don't know. I don't think so, frankly. I'm not making any projections on that right now. But I don't know, frankly. And if they don't, I'm just shrugging. It's terrible because Trump really needs a Republican majority in both the House and the Senate to get things accomplished. And I mean people that are MAGA Republicans at that. And I have to be frank, it doesn't look hopeful with that. Okay, let's shift gears. But if there's anything positive, if there's any silver lining, there's one thing I've learned about the Republican Party by studying it. And if you look back on its history for the last, say, 50, 60 years, whenever the Republican Party has a major wipeout where they're just cleaned out, presidency, the Senate, the House, and the Democrats are on the ascendancy, right? And it looks like the end of the GOP. It's always a new beginning for them. When Bush squandered, Bush 43, when he squandered everything and blew his second term, flushed it down the toilet, ended with one of the worst economies in recent generations. When all of that took place, of wars that we didn't need to be in, or a major war in Iraq that we certainly didn't need to be in, and Obama came in and won everything, and Democrats, and Nancy Pelosi became the first speaker, female speaker, and all that. When it looked like it was the end, the Tea Party happened. When Obama got reelected, the Tea Party actually had a resurgence in 2014, which was kind of interesting. When it looked like Hillary was the inevitable, Donald Trump happened. The Republican Party has a habit of rebuilding. You can go back into the early 90s and you can look. In 92, the GOP had dominated the White House for 12 years. 12 landslides, over 400 electoral votes each time for those two Republican presidents, Reagan and Bush 41. When Clinton won in 92, it was a Democrat rebirth. It was the era of the new Democrat, and the GOP was completely wiped away. And it looked like the end of the GOP. 2 years later, the Gingrich Revolution takes place. And the reverberations of that were felt for years, decades. In fact, Gingrich, that revolution under Newt broke the lock that Democrats had on the U.S. House for 40 years. So it more often than not, the GOP controls the House since that era, from the last 30 years. They've controlled the House more times than Democrats. If you look back on the previous 40 years, the Republicans never controlled the House. So you got to keep all this in perspective. So the GOP has a habit of reforming itself every generation. It has to go through a period of literally a makeover. And it has to, like, if you remember in The Godfather, this is a bad analogy. Everybody liked The Godfather. It's one of my favorite movies. Godfather 1 and 2. And I even like 3. But there's a scene where it's like Clemenza's telling Michael, he's saying, all these things have to happen once in a while, get rid of the bad blood. He was talking about a war. Sometimes you have to go through like an internal war, and you just have to just jettison parts that don't work anymore. And that's what happens. It just is a rebirth. So if there's any consolation in any of this, if the Republicans lose the House in the fall, it's a good opportunity to rebuild. Sort of when you have to rebuild a sports team. And that happens every few years. You got to do that. So switching to, let's see, Trump's court cases. Okay. Trump's court cases. It's going great, just like I said it was going to go. I said this a year and a half ago. Go back and listen to my other Max Bytes and my MAGA Bytes, which is my full podcast on Premium that we do for Premium members. Sometimes those go on for 2 hours, and I take questions, and we answer questions that members post in the garage, or post on the messaging board, or email me. You definitely would really love Premium. But let's talk about Trump's court cases really briefly. Well, I'm not going to go through all of the individual cases. The bottom line is the feds are pretty much, because of the Supreme Court getting involved, everything's sort of frozen. The federal charges against him are in like they're just being held out there in suspended animation. I don't believe they're going to go anywhere. The Florida case is all but done. Georgia's that's a complete disaster. It's a state case, of course, but that's not happening. That's like falling apart. It's ironic that the Bragg case, the one that's the weakest case and the stupidest case and the case that nobody really cares about, except maybe a handful of progressive Democrats who don't even really believe it themselves anymore because there's so much lying going on the stand. And I know there's been a lot of analysis, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But the bottom line is, it's going even better than I thought, frankly. The end of the day, it's all baked in. Is it going to have, is a conviction? I had some people question, Max, whether or not there's going to, if they get a conviction against Trump, is it going to do something? It's already baked in. Trump could be convicted and literally be mugshotted again, as far as getting mugshots, and then be put in jail for a day. He'll be out on bail in a matter of hours or seconds. But is this really going to have any impact on anything? No. It's not going to have any impact on anything because the people that already hated him and hate him so much because they have Trump derangement syndrome, it's not going to make any difference to them. And the people that love him ain't going to make any difference to them. And the people in the middle, I don't think there's too many people that are left out there that don't have an opinion. And it's frankly not an issue that they really care about. This is a hush money thing. This is silly. This is stupid. It's like going and peering into people's bedrooms, and it's just dumb. And the whole case is really an illegal case because of the way the statutes were stretched to bring a felony charge when it was clearly a misdemeanor and the statute of limitations had expired. It had already been over 2 years. So at the end of the day, on appeal, he'll win. I don't know if he'll win. I think there may be even a hung jury. There's a chance of a hung jury here, frankly. But if he gets convicted, it'll go on appeal. Will he be jailed? No. If he's jailed for a minute and he's out. You can't. I've said this many times, and I'm going to say it again. I've written it. There is mandatory presidential protection by the Secret Service. You can't. How do you protect the president, the former president, in either a jail and especially in a prison? You can't. They're in a state prison. You can't. What are you going to do? You're going to remove all of the prisoners. You have to. The Secret Service are going to require that. You'll have to it'll be a nightmare for corrections. You'll have to you have to create a special prison just for him. And that's pointless and stupid. You have to remove all the prisoners from not only a cell block, frankly, from the entire institution, and then the Secret Service are going to be camped out in there. And you imagine the cost involved in that? It's never going to happen. Logistics it's insane. It's crazy. No, he'll end up being basically like a house arrest on Mar-a-Lago or something like that, or Trump Tower in this case. That's where he would end up. And he would be waiting appeal, and he'd be running his campaign from there. He'd still win re-election. And at that point, I think that we'll be faced with the Supreme Court getting involved because there's no way on earth he could stay there and run the country. And we're not going to get to that point. I mean, it could happen, yes, but the odds are against it. So I'm frankly not worried about that. But I do want to tell you something that's a positive note, separate note, and that is this. We are looking really good come November. I mean, I know the people looking at the polls and stuff like that. I don't just look at polls. I look at historical trends. I look at the culture, the society in general, as I like to call it, sociocultural way of interpreting future events as I'm one way of looking at it. It's the archaeologist in me. And I like to just put it all in perspective. And people wonder sometimes, how do you call? I mean, I think my score right now in the last 3 years is like 348 to 6. Like 348 to 6 is my score on projections. I call them that, early projections, election outcomes, political events, so on and so forth. And you know what it is? It's just basically I don't get tied up in the hyperbole. The histrionics, which is what you see on social media. That's why I don't, if you notice, I don't spend a lot of time engaging with that stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that's fine. If you don't like the news today, wait till tomorrow, it'll blow over. I said, there's certain things that will happen, certain things that won't happen. And, I mean, how many times do you see World War III trending, for instance? How many times do you see topics trending and then nothing happens, right? You can't, look at it like that. You got to look at the bigger picture. You got to step back. You got to get up there, like, 30,000 feet and look down. And a lot of people think they're being objective, and they're really just ultra subjective. And, so I don't do things like that. And I try to keep a more objective view. And if you're looking at it, it looks really good. There are things that concern me. I'm not making any election projections yet, but it's looking very promising. But if you want to hear my projections, attend my next new seminar. Civics Maximus 2024 is June 28th to the 29th. And it's where I'm going to release all my election projections for the U.S. Senate, for the U.S. House, and of course for the White House, for the presidency. I'm going to go state by state over 2 days. If you want to attend it, it's the biggest seminar I'm doing this year, Civics Maximus 2024. I did Civics Maximus 2022. I had to do it 3 or 4 times 2 years ago. And that's where I ran up those high numbers, because I actually projected, I said we were going to win the House barely at the end of the day. I said we're going to win the House barely. Could be high, but it's looking like it's going to be tight. We're not going to win the Senate. We actually may lose a seat or 2 in the Senate, and that's exactly what happened. We lost a seat. And I said we pick up the governorship in 1 state at least, and I pointed out Nevada, and but it was a really good that was really good. Anyways, this is my follow-up one, and this one here, of course, is for this election coming up here. And if you want to learn about what's going to happen, join Civics Maximus 2024. We'll be discussing is everybody can ask questions. It's a Socratic discussion. You get to ask me questions live. We do it all online. And you get to see me and hear me, and we get to talk back and forth, and it's usually a big crowd. So contact Roxy if you want to join. Roxy Balboa, the number 1 at gmail.com. Again, her email's in the description below. You can also DM her at Roxy_Balboa, Twitter and Telegram. Tell her I sent you. If you're a member of Premium, you get a huge discount for attending. So you may want to join up Premium at first, and then you could attend the seminar. If you become a Platinum member on Premium, you get to attend the seminar for free. So, which is really cool, because Platinum members get to attend seminars for free. So if you want to become a Platinum member of Premium, you get all the goodies, and you also get 2 special crash courses with me as well as a Platinum member. And we actually do fireside chats too. So you get to you can, instead of doing a crash course, you can do a fireside chat if you want. We do those once a month typically. Anyways, but it's looking pretty good. I have to say, honestly, it's looking pretty good. But regardless of how it's looking, regardless of what happens, remember, you're special because you're you. And don't let the world bother you. Don't let all of the turmoil, all of the noise, all of the try to, like what Bannon always says, it's all noise. Focus on the substance, right? And I really take that, and I mean that. I practice that. I won't, just focus on the substance. Anyways, I want to play something for you right now. You'll enjoy this. It's my upcoming Encore for Pirates, my history seminar. I'm doing a second Encore next week, and I want to invite you to attend. So if you feel like attending, I'm doing a second Encore for a little group of people that wanted to attend and couldn't make it the last time. It'll be the 3rd time I'm doing the seminar this year. Go ahead and roll it. Pirates, buccaneers, privateers, and the search for buried treasure. In the 1600s, a group of misfits, ex-soldiers, former slaves, and social outcasts banded together to become the terrors of the Caribbean. These men raided colonial ports, Spanish and Portuguese treasure ships, and took fortunes from corrupt bureaucrats. Answerable to no one, they formed a republic with a code of laws and emerged as the earliest example of organized crime in the New World. In the Pirate Republic of the Caribbean, to the Battle of New Orleans during the War of 1812. This is my 3rd history seminar. We'll focus on the life and times of these romantic rogues, their battles on the high seas. Join me for this, my ultimate history seminar. Focus on the life and times of these men, their battles on the high seas, and the archaeological search for buried treasure. Together we'll break down their beliefs, customs, and culture over 3 days and 3 nights. For more information or to enroll, email roxybalboa1@gmail.com. Full contact information in the description below. I look forward to setting sail with you. Anyways, that's Pirates, Buccaneers, Privateers, and the Search for Buried Treasure. And that's going to be next week. I believe the days, anyway, I found the days in front of me here. Hold on a second here. I believe it's we're doing it on 2 days. We're doing like a crashed Pirates, and I think it's the 21st and the 22nd. I'm pretty sure about that. But anyways, if you want to attend, contact any of the Angels or Warriors. Contact Roxy if you want. Email her again, roxybalboa1@gmail.com, and she'll hook you up. Anyways, listen, I wanted to tell you to be peaceful, be at peace, be at rest, and I hope everything's going good for you. If you have any prayer requests, send them to Jackie. She maintains my prayer chains. And I am starting a prayer channel this year too, so you'll be able to post, just send her your prayer requests and you'll have hundreds of people praying for them. So again, contact roxybalboa1@gmail.com if you have any questions. If you want my upcoming schedule as well of seminars and topics I'll be teaching on and special events. The election season is upon us soon. It's coming up, and I have a lot of things in store, a lot of surprises coming. So God bless you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you around the campfire. I hope to see you at my seminar, and I hope you become a member of Maximus Premium. You won't be disappointed. Take advantage of our special this month. Join for $14. Contact Roxy with any more questions. In any case, God bless you, and I'll be talking to you again real soon, I promise. Ciao.